One of the top habits that my students have who score really, really highly is something so unbelievably simple that it makes everything else seem like it is the dumbest strategy you can apply. My name is Vihanka. I graduated from one of the top STEM selective entry schools in Victoria. I've worked with over 1,400 students, and I also studied a double degree in aerospace engineering and astrophysics. I'm also an educational consultant for some of the top tutoring firms in the state. So in today's video, what I'm going to go through is a very interesting habit that some of my top performing students have done. And this is not just a small sample size of one or two, this is hundreds of top performing students that I've had. So I've noticed that a lot of these top performing students, they don't just do the Pomodoro techniques, they don't just do flashcards, they don't do spaced repetition, they don't do any of that because they understand that that is very temporary stuff. What a lot of my students do is something incredibly unique, which is they match their learning style to their memorization style. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people, when they learn, they just look at a textbook and they write down notes. What the top performing students do is they understand their own brain and they go, hey, I'm actually not a person who reads off textbooks really, really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to watch a YouTube video, or I'm going to watch a video that my teacher sent out. And I'm going to listen to that video and create little diagrams and little annotations on my note set, instead of just blindly memorizing things in textbooks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the textbook itself and filter in any keywords and missing words that I have. So they match their learning style to their note-taking style. The next thing they do is they instantly go and do practice questions. They don't wait a couple days, they don't wait a couple hours, they don't do any other subject in between. They jump right into practice questions. They don't go into the hardest questions, they go into the foundational things. And after every single question, or maybe every couple of questions, they look at the solutions and they try and see where they messed up and they make notes and annotations for those systems. Now, what this does is a couple of things. This makes it so that they, one, understand the content, and two, are writing in terms of exam style. Exam technique is the make or break between students that score 40 to students that score above 45. The exam writing is what gets people. In subjects that are very wordy, you have to make sure you have key definitions. In subjects that are very mathematical and number oriented, you have to make sure you explicitly say certain steps and that you have certain steps. If you do not do practice questions and you do not look at the suggested solutions, you will never be able to understand this until you start doing mock exams. A lot of my students who score very, very well start doing this incredibly early. And that's mainly because I tell them to do this, but also because they understand that the thing that gets the top scores isn't just knowing the content back to front, it's actually writing with purpose and writing to make sure you get the marks. At the end of the day, you can learn all you want, but you will be assessed in an exam. So if you're not preparing for the mode that you're going to be assessed in, you might as well just not learn at all. And yes, this is very twisted and backwards because I should be promoting the whole holistic learn forever type stuff. But at the end of the day, you have an exam that you have to fill out. 100% you should prioritize long-term learning. 1,000% you should prioritize that. But at the end of the day, your school will give you a sheet of paper with questions that you need to answer. That is how you are assessed, unfortunately, in this day and age. Until times change, that won't really happen anytime soon, but until they do, that is the process you need to understand. For the parts of the exams that require problem solving, because there are going to be questions in your exam paper that you would never have seen before. That's what VCAR are trying to do now. They're trying to create questions that students have never seen before, and they're trying to create questions that are nowhere in the syllabus, but connect ideas together. How do you tackle those questions? Well, those types of questions, which separate the 45 to 47 to 48 to 50s, those questions can only be done by understanding the content deeply. How do you do that? Well, you have to really dive into the subject itself. You have to obsess about the subject itself. This is why when you look at someone's ATAR scores and the study scores they get, they have one or two subjects that they score raw 50s in, but then a lot of their other subjects are kind of dwindling behind in perspective. For example, I had a student who was very, very, very good at English. She got an incredibly high score, but then her math scores, her general math scores, because I didn't teach for methods, she wasn't very good at math, her general math scores was substantially lower. She got a 48 raw in English, but then her general math score was a 35. That's a whole 13 study score difference. She's a smart student. She's absolutely not dumb. But the method that she used for math was different to the methods used for English. She was going so deep into English. She was always working on English. She let math fall behind in comparison. And as a result, her subjects tanked as well. So you need to understand that the people who are getting these 45 plus scores, which is the top like 4, 5, 6% of the state, they are so unbelievably drawn into their subject that they have full mastery over it. So you need to understand that the students who are getting the raw 50s aren't just doing a million different practice questions. They understand the subject incredibly deeply. Keep that in mind when you're doing your preparation and when you are looking at study habits and things like that, because that is genuinely one of the things that scores really, really highly in some of the techniques that my top students use. That's it. That's the video. Don't like, don't comment, don't sub. Log off and do something else now. See ya.